You ever feel like great writing is some kind of magic trick? Well, it's really not. It's all about having the right tools and, of course, knowing how to use them. So today, we're going to open up that writer's toolkit and master the essential rules of punctuation and sentence flow, the stuff that gives your words real clarity and power. So let's just jump right in with a classic example. On the left, we've got a sentence that's, well, a little concerning for grandma, right? But on the right, with just one tiny little comma, it becomes a perfectly friendly invitation. And that's the power of punctuation in a nutshell. It can literally save a life. You see, these little marks, periods, commas, semicolons, they're not just decorations on the page. Think of them as traffic signals for your reader. They show exactly where ideas begin, where they pause for a second, and how they connect to each other. Mastering them is for sure the first big step to becoming a clear and really effective writer.
All right, let's open up that toolkit. First up, we're going to cover the core punctuation marks. These are the absolute essentials, the foundation for pretty much any strong piece of writing. First, we have the most basic and, honestly, the most powerful tool in the box, the period. It's the ultimate stop sign. It tells your reader, hey, this complete thought is finished. It's simple, it's clean, and it's absolutely essential for creating separation between your ideas. Next up is the comma. This is probably the most versatile, and let's be honest, definitely the most misused tool we've got. It does a lot of different jobs, so for now, let's just focus on its two most important ones. Okay, job number one, creating a list. This is its most straightforward use. As you can see here, the commas neatly separate each item, which makes the whole idea clean and super easy to read. I mean, without them, you just have a confusing jumble of fruit. But here's the thing about commas. They can't always work alone. A comma just isn't strong enough to connect two complete sentences all by itself. Nope, it needs a partner, what we call a coordinating conjunction. The easiest way to remember them is with the acronym FANBOYS. That stands for and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. A comma plus one of those words, now that's the proper way to link two main ideas together. Now, let's talk about the semicolon. You should think of this one as a kind of super connector. It's stronger than a comma because it can join two complete sentences all by itself without needing one of those fanboys conjunctions. The key, though, is that those two sentences have to be really closely related in meaning. So let's look at the difference here. The sentence on the left with the comma, but, is perfectly correct. Nothing wrong with it. But the one on the right, using the semicolon, it creates a tighter, maybe even a more sophisticated link. It implies his tiredness is the direct reason he couldn't study. It's a subtle shift, I know, but it gives your writing more variety and a little more punch. Our final core tool is the colon. I like to call this one the announcer. It creates this little moment of pause, and it basically says to the reader, get ready, something important is about to be introduced. And that something could be a list, a quote, or maybe an explanation. Here's how to think about it. The part of the sentence that comes before the colon has to be a complete statement on its own. The colon is like the pause before the big reveal of all the details. And the absolute number one rule here is not the part before the colon has to be a complete sentence. Okay, so we've seen the tools. Now let's look at what happens when sentences get built incorrectly. This section is all about spotting the most common traps that writers fall into so you can avoid them. First up, the sentence fragment. This is basically an incomplete thought that's trying to pass itself off as a full sentence. It just leaves your reader hanging because it's missing a crucial piece, like who or what is actually doing the action. Yeah, imagine a sentence that's just a floating puzzle piece. Something like, because I like pizza. It just leaves you wondering, so what, right? The thought is totally unfinished. To fix it, you have to connect it to a complete thought, and then you get the full picture. Because I like pizza, I eat it every day. Next up is the run-on sentence. This is the opposite problem. Instead of an incomplete thought, you have this collision of two or more complete thoughts just smashed together without any separation. It forces your reader to do all the work of figuring out where one idea ends and the next one begins. It's kind of like two train cars just crashing into each other. You read the sentence, I like pizza, I eat it every day, and you can just feel how it barrels forward without any pause. You've got two totally distinct ideas, liking pizza and eating it daily, and they've just collided with no signal to separate them. Now, A very close cousin to the run-on is the comma splice. And this one is tricky because it looks almost correct. It's what happens when you try to connect two full sentences using just a comma. And remember what we said? A comma just isn't strong enough for that job on its own.
This is like trying to hold two heavy weights together with just a single piece of string. A sentence like, I like pizza, I eat it every day, might feel a little better than a run-on, but it's still a critical error. That little comma just isn't strong enough to do the heavy lifting of a period or a semicolon. So we've spotted the problems. And now for the best part, the master repairs. Let's look at how you can use the tools from our kit to fix these broken sentences and do it quickly and easily. And luckily, you've got 4 really great options. First, the simplest one. Just use a period and create 2 separate sentences. Easy. Second, you can add a comma plus one of those fanboys words. Third, bring in our super connector, the semicolon. And finally, you can restructure the whole thing by adding a word like because or since at the beginning. And you know what the best part is? You don't have to learn 2 completely different sets of rules. It turns out those exact same 4 fixes work for run-on sentences and for comma splices. How great is that? So if you just master this one set of repairs, you've basically knocked out 2 of the biggest, most common writing errors all at once. So let's bring all this together. What is the main takeaway from our little journey through the Writer's Toolkit? So, what have we really learned today? Well, it's not about memorizing a million boring rules. It's about seeing punctuation as a set of tools you can use to create clarity. When you know whether you need a period, a comma, or a semicolon, you are in control. And once you can spot those common traps like fragments and run-ons, you realize just how simple they are to fix. And ultimately, just remember this: clear writing is powerful writing. You know, in the end, these marks on the page are so much more than just grammar. They control the rhythm, the pace, and the tone of your sentences. They are a fundamental part of your writing voice. So the next time you sit down to write, ask yourself this: what do you want your voice to say?